Hello, sweethearts. My name is Ronnie, and we're gonna pretend that you're coming to the library where you would meet the wonderful Mr. Schwab, and your lovely maestra would bring you, and I would get to see your shining, lovely faces. But I am here in Minneapolis at my daughter's house, which is a great place to be. And by the magic of computer, we get to be together. So first, before I start a story for you, I'd like to teach you a really big word for 4K. That word is utopia. Utopia. Maybe the lovely maestra Sarah could tell you what that word is in Spanish. And it means a dream place to live, a space where everyone is important and everyone is included. That's what we try to have at Sandberg, a place where if you want to play, you always can play. You always can be a part of what is going on if you wish to be. So we're going to read a story about that on Sesame Street. One more thing though, before I start, I want to use my grandson Luke's amazing closet to show you something. So if you remember, this is E.T., the extraterrestrial's closet, and he has a lot of friends in here. And he has friends of all different shapes and sizes. He has great big friends, like this wonderful bear, and Yoda, and middle-sized friends, and some very little friends, like this darling monkey that came all the way from NASA in Florida, where astronauts go into space. And someone even tinier, this little turtle. And now we're going to read this book called Don't Cry, Big Bird. This is a book I read to my own children, and my children now have read it to their children, my grandchildren. Okay. Big Bird liked to play with his friends, but playing with them was hard for Big Bird. Their jump ropes were too short. Their hopscotch boxes were too small. Their hide and seek hiding places were too little. Their seesaws came down but never went up because Big Bird was too big. One day, Big Bird came home from the park by himself. I am too big to play with my friends, he sobbed. He was so busy crying, he did not see his friend Snuffleupagus. And if you know Sesame Street, Snuffleupagus is Big Bird's imaginary friend. I don't know if any of you have ever had an imaginary friend. One of my sons, Tyler, did, and his name was Bake. And Bake drove a Lamborghini, a very fancy car. We used to take the bus, and when it was snowy or rainy or really cold, Tyler would always say, "Don't worry, Bake is coming in his Lamborghini." So here we have Snuffleupagus. "Don't cry, Bird," said Snuffleupagus. "You are not too big. Their games are too little." Big Bird jumped up. He stopped crying. "Do you really think so, Mr. Snuffleupagus?" "Yes, Bird, I really do. You are a very nice size. Big, like me." Then Big Bird had an idea. "Hey, we are both big, so let's play together." Snuffleupagus shook his head. "No, Bird, I can't play now. It's time for my nap. And Snuffleupagus went slowly down the street. It is nice to be big, Big Bird said sadly, but sometimes I wish I could make myself smaller. Back at the park, Ernie and Bert were thinking. So here's Bert, here's Ernie. If only Big Bird were smaller, then he could play with us. Well, we can't make Big Bird smaller, said Bert. But we can make our games bigger, like this. And he tied 2 jump ropes together. Grover ran to get Big Bird. We have a big surprise for you. When Big Bird got to the park, Ernie and Bert were turning the big rope. Jump, Big Bird, they said. Big Bird jumped. The rope went over his head. Hooray for Big Bird! Everyone had a turn at jumping rope. Then Betty Lou drew the biggest hopscotch boxes ever. Come on, Big Bird, hop, she said. Big Bird hopped. Then he looked down. I did it right, he said. I didn't step on the lines. Big Bird was really happy until he remembered something. I'm still too big to play hide and seek. Then suddenly he smiled. Hey, everybody, he shouted. I don't have to hide. I can be it. I can look for you. Everybody played hide and seek, and Big Bird was it. Then they played on the seesaw. Big Bird sat on one end. All his friends sat on the other. The seesaw went up and down. What can we do now? Said Harry. Let's fly my new kite, said Betty Lou. She held the string and ran and ran and ran. The kite began to fly higher and higher until it hit the top of a tree. Bump, the kite fell down and stuck in the tree. Oh no, cried Betty Lou. I'll never get my kite back now. Big Bird ran to Betty Lou. Don't cry, he said. I think I can help. Big Bird stood on his tiptoes. He reached high up and pulled the kite down. Here, Betty Lou, your kite is as good as new. Hooray for Big Bird, everyone cheered. Big Bird was very happy. Now let's play my favorite game. What game is that? Everyone asked. Big Bird smiled. Giant steps. Thank you for being wonderful listeners.